around the housing bill, then follow that with conversations around NATCO. Is it something that was already planned, or we just intimated right on our set and got it right? Joining us this morning is Joyce Womayu, who is an economist and consultant on good governance. We do expect also Eric Mungai, who I can already see in the studio, and Mr. Ragaro Eric, we're going to walk in shortly so that we can table that conversation. Online at Lookuptv, across all your social media platforms, I am Kiage Simba. Good morning.
Are you an SME looking for a media partner? Look no more, as Lookuptv got you covered for all your visibility and marketing needs. We at Lookuptv understand your business needs and want to work with you on your marketing journey, giving you solutions that will take you to the next level. Call us today on 0707 572 358 or send an email to sales@lookuptv.co.ke and kickstart this amazing journey. Welcome to Lookuptv, your official SME media partner.
Save a Life is a non-profit organization that has taken the front line in transforming lives in the entire country. So far, we have transformed life of over 100,000 people through our programs, which include medical support, youth empowerment, street family program, feeding program, and climate change. Join us today as we transform lives. As we always say, service to humanity is service to God. Save a life, transforming lives.
Tere, mambo ni mawili, kufikisha, kumwaga na kurudi. Kulala ni mwaka mpya.
Muka we mse. Nini mbaya? Wewe kwani wani vile dereva anaendesha gari vibaya, lazima tususe. Anaendesha gari na kwa simu the whole time, hata angalia barabara. Wewe dereva wewe, mwaka iliyopita peke yake watu zaidi ya 1000 walipoteza maisha yao barabarani kwa sababu ya tabia kama hizo. Hautatuangamiza tukiona.
Naomba msamaha, tampeleka vizuri.
Si wameomba msamaha. Sasa twende tusafiri kwa mwendo wa aste.
Dere Smart hufikisha abiria salama. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na NTSA kwa ushirikiano na European Union.
If you want to have a proper outlook of the economy, and you have to speak to the wheels and gears of the integral businesses in the country.
And I want to be able to make the youths and everybody coming up in Kenya know that this is here locally.
Men and women in the thick of the bust of markets rising and falling, fighting to make their business decisions stick.
I've always lived in my career that I can never be late.
You need to train by yourself. You need to practice by yourself. Then from there you can compose yourself and give kind of services like this.
On season 2 of the Captain's Arena, we seek the inside of the minds, predict the shift in the markets, get inspiration to start and make sense of it all.
Just watch what everybody else is doing and just make sure you're giving back to the society.
Oof. This is the Captain's Arena.
As the night falls, we come come to life to bring you a comprehensive broadcast from the numerous events happening across our 47 counties.
When it breaks, it matters, and each story is important.
If it's Thursday, join me, Nancy Lima, and my able panelists as we break down the law jargons and analyze the Constitution in a way only you can understand.
The news cycle never stops, neither does time. We cover each and every sector and present to you factual and accurate occurrences. This is where facts win the day. Join me,
Nancy Lima,
Ian Keitani, Tuesday, every Wednesday,
Thursday,
as from 9 p.m. on The Insight, only on Lookuptv.
All right. Welcome back to the Morning Drift. My name is Simba Kiage. This is Lookuptv. Let's then table the conversation this morning, and our conversation is essentially on divisions. Now, it's a good thing that Mr. Mungai is already here this morning, and Joyce, because we sort of spoke about this particular issue last week when we were sort of looking at how the members of parliament were going to handle the housing bill. But then of importance is the order that they were handling this event. They came back from recess, and the first issue they spoke about was on CDF. Followed that with the housing bill. Now all of a sudden, in between those critical conversations of the housing bill, there was also the announcement that indeed they were going to adopt the proposals in the NATCO report. So when you look at that chronology, you're sort of asking yourself the question, is it just like our analysts put it, that they'll get what they want, then after that, the others will be easy and go? In fact, if you look at those proposals in that particular document, it's a heavy document. It's not just a small document. So when it comes to passing that NATCO report, you like to think it's going to take a lot, even the entire of this year, because there's a lot of areas that majority of Kenyans get their proposals on. This morning, we talk about the divisions that have essentially followed that housing bill vote, and also speak on the divisions now that we're seeing in the Azimio coalition as regards Raila Amolo Odinga's AU job hunt. All right, let me welcome then the guests who are in the studio. I can see Mr. Mungai. How are you doing, sir?
I'm well. Good morning to the viewer. It's good to see you, Simba.
Happy to see you, man.
And Joyce, on a good Monday morning.
That's it.
I want to welcome the viewer. And you know, I always say that Lookuptv is a place you can look up to in terms of information. We say it as it is. We disagree to agree, we agree to disagree, but it is better to build a nation through words than physically through fights. And so anytime we have an opportunity to shape the narrative of the nation, then we are more than grateful. So good morning to our viewer. It's always good when we open up Lookuptv on a Monday morning. It's usually the start of a very good week ahead.
All right, Joyce, how are you doing yourself?
Thank you so much, my week have been beautiful and good. It was a raining weekend starting from Friday all the way to yesterday.
Yes.
I want to thank the Lookuptv. Yesterday was the second Sunday of the Rent, and the message was from fear to courage. So for the members of Lookuptv, I still wish you that you shift from the fear to courage, so that this week can be comfortable. You have me in your prayers, and I have you in my prayers.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
zero to meat.
You're not eating meat.
No.
Pretty much. All right. Let's then now table the conversation for this morning. Mr. Mungai, when we were seated here, there's something that you guys mentioned, that indeed, when it comes to how the members of parliament were going to align themselves in this particular vote for the housing bill, that it was not going to be hard. Because if you look at the way the NATCO report is positioning itself, that the executive or the president wants something from the members of parliament, the members of parliament want something from the executive. So it is scratch my back, I will scratch your back. Is it a coincidence that the first issue that the members of parliament spoke on was CDF, second became the housing bill, and third now is the NATCO report? But I also want you to mention on just the quickness of the passing of that housing bill. We thought it would go all the way to Friday. Mungai, it did not. That even after the National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula told members of parliament that you have until noon, which was Wednesday noon, for deliberations to follow, then the committee was going to look at those deliberations and make any changes to that particular bill before the final deliberations of Friday. It did not get to Friday. Got to Thursday, those members of parliament passed it. And when you look at the numbers and the way that the opposition members of parliament behaved, that's when you start to see the questions that we're asking this morning. Let's first start with the first one. Is it a coincidence that the chronology of these events is CDF, housing bill, NATCO report?
Thank you, Simba. Well, politics is usually a means of give and take.
Yes.
And so long as you're dealing with policies are about interests. And especially when you live in a country like Africa, where proximity to power is equivalent to proximity to resources, then you understand why give and take, usually they call it horse trading, is important. It was incumbent upon, it is not a surprise that the chronology of events when Parliament resumed from recess is CDF, housing bill, and then the NADCO report.
Yes.
And why CDF is particularly important is because without CDF, a majority of members of parliament would not see their seats back. And why is that so? Because if you look at bursaries allocation, CDF has been doing a lot with regard to bursaries. And it's a whole political event, especially when you're issuing the checks. You have to make sure that by and large a majority of the population is around, so that you are able to hand out the checks here and there. So it's a political tool.
Yes.
If you look at CDF in terms of infrastructure and construction of infrastructure, then you realize why CDF is an important tool, especially when it comes to political mobilization. And therefore, it is not surprising when you find that members of parliament would of course have to start with CDF as part of the discussions. Well understood. Secondly is the manner and the speed in which those bills have been processed through parliament. And I keep on telling people, if there is a second name for President William Ruto, is efficiency. The man is thoroughly efficient. And as a country, in fact, he's so efficient to the effect that sometimes even the CSS get to know what the president is doing through the PS. Because sometimes the bureaucracy becomes so much, you can get bogged down with bureaucracy to the extent that you do not get anything done. And therefore, when we talk about efficiency being the second name for William, and the third name being prayer, you saw over the weekend, I don't know why you haven't mentioned it, Benny Hinn was here to pray for us. And of course, this weekend has been full of religious activities. We have also seen the AIPCA Church come to a truce and celebrate the centenary celebrations. So that's the third name of William. But in terms of efficiency, it is not surprising. Remember the health bills, the three of them, they were also passed through a record speed. And the beauty with these things is that many people forget that these were part of the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza. And therefore, the bills had been prepared earlier on, just waiting for William to get into presidency and get to table them to parliament. So it's not like William is coming up with these bills now through the majority leader and submitting them to parliament. And that is in essence the beauty about planning. Plan before and then execution becomes very easy. So it's not surprising, the chronology of events. Of course, the second one that has been passed is the housing bill, which has attracted a lot of controversy, which I think we will be discussing. But by and large, I am not surprised at the efficiency. I would be surprised if there was anything less.
You know where the controversy starts from, and we're coming back to you on that, is that Kimani Ichung'wah promised the president, if you did listen to that retreat in Naivasha, that, hey, Mr. President, that particular bill, by Friday, before the next paycheck, I mean, it will be done and dusted. That's not something they should worry about. And then we go back to the National House, we see the Speaker sort of push, as if he's a man who's already informed that by this Friday, regardless of what happens in between here, this particular bill is going to go through. I mean, we didn't even see any deliberations come from the opposition side. The committee didn't essentially come to give us a report about any other deliberations that were made by the various members of parliament from the opposing side. I'll be coming back to you on that, whether it's okay for us to pass that bill within a record 3 days of deliberations. At this point, let me say hi to Eric Ragalo, who joined us this morning just before I cross over to Joyce. Ragalo, how are you doing, sir? Happy to have you around, man.
Happy for a new day.
That's it.
Very clean. And the air is good. But Eric has started to make it dusty.
We're gonna come and see exactly how dusty it is. He's saying the president is efficient and smart. We'll be looking at that as well.
Very unreligious.
Yes, that's it. So Joyce, same question to you as well. I mean, look at the chronology of these events. It is CDF, housing bill, and then NATCO report now. Is it by coincidence that the members of parliament essentially followed it in this order?
I want to take you back to Naivasha meeting.
Yes.
Even before I take you back to Naivasha meeting, I want to welcome back my brother Eric. Naivasha meeting, just like my brother Eric is saying, we are looking into shrineness of a reader who will mobilize human resource behind the scene so that I can press my card on the table and you press your card on the table and we agree. Nothing in life happens by coincidence. It is not by coincidence that we have that the 4 issues, the CDF, the housing, the NADCO report, and the chief report within 1 week. It is not by coincidence. So when members of Kenya Kwanza government went for a retreat in Naivasha, they told us they were going to endorse Raila Amolo Odinga for the AU job. Little did we know that they were not going for that discussion. They went for give me my take and I give you a take. Of course, we are disappointed by the members of parliament who opted, the opposition members of parliament who opted out of the housing bill. But I see it as a design by the executive through the legislature to fix in and to bring in their bills to personalize this discussion.
Yes.
This discussion in the House is not about the Kenya Kwanza. It's about Wajiko. So when you push these bills without regard to the consequences, the opinions of Wajiko, whether you belong to the Kenya Kwanza government or whether you belong to the opposition, you are stepping on Wajiko's toes. Immediately after the Naivasha meeting was done, there was a lot of hostility on the road. Why was there hostility on the road? Because we've realized that the legislature has now been compromised. And they've been compromised, and we saw it last week. And we're also going to see it this week. It is only yesterday that Susan Nahumisha, the CSL, gave us the chronological event of how this week it will be. It was on record that she said on Tuesday and Wednesday they will be done with that bill. So in essence, they are going ahead and stamping that conniving method of pushing into the agendas through the registration. But I want to promise them one thing. Getting that bill signed is not equals to actualizing that bill. Those are two different aspects. Because once it is signed, it will still come back to us. We have the 7 days window, of which we can now decide to challenge it in the court of law. So whether they bring in the housing bill, whether the members of the opposition decide to opt not to go to the house,
yes,
whether they were given, like Governor Mushoba said, some cash was exchanged at the toilet. I'm hoping this time round it was checked in the 3-pack. Members of public will question these bills, and whether it is signed by the president or otherwise, when it comes back to the public, we are going to challenge it. Trust me on that one, Elijah.
I'll be coming back to you on that, because there's an entire conversation on even how the numbers of voting essentially went down. Ragalo, I want to introduce you to the conversation. You and I spoke about this, and you said, well, NATCO report is not going to be an issue. If indeed members of parliament get what they need. That chronology of events, I mean, look at the order paper it has been. Let's talk about CDF. After CDF, we'll talk about the housing bill. And in between that conversation for the house bill, by the way, members of parliament then make a declaration that we are going to pass the NATCO report, essentially entrenching it into law. Is it a coincidence that the order paper essentially had this as the first 3 issues are going to look at?
Who pays the piper? Calls the shot. The MPs wanted CDF, and they wanted CDF to be taken care of. That will give them leeway to make money. And after they have leeway to make money, anything else you bring, we don't care. I once told you here a few weeks ago, rather 3 weeks ago to be exact, that why would we have CDF under the MPs? What is the function of that ministry that CDF works for? Because CDF works for the Ministry of Education. What is the function of the Ministry of Education? And right now, when you look at the standard, you are told the Auditor General flagged 4 billion shillings that was allocated for construction of this CBC classrooms.
Yes.
So was the national government building classes and the MPs equally were building classes? Are we not doing the same thing, 2 of us? So which classes were MPs building and which classes were CBC government building for CBC? So of course it gives other competitors of the MP, any MP, being a wrong side during elections. You are competing an MP who has been amassing over 100 million for 5 years, bringing that MP to $500 million in 5 years. I don't want to call them thieves, but I'm tempted equally to say they are thieves, but I'm also tempted to say they are kleptomaniacs. A better language is to say maybe some sadaka remains that they use for campaign. Eric here will never be a governor. Why? He has no money. I'm not saying that I don't know his pocket, but I'm understanding the fact that for us to win, you convince the people. In Kenya, you don't convince the people, you buy the people. That's why people have names like Kororia, people have names like Wamatangi, people have names like Wamatinga. It's in Kikuyu nation, people are given names according to how they offer to the community, with the community not looking at where do they get the money. Names are funny there. Kimani Wamatangi was never called Wamatangi when he was born. When did he become a tank man? Kororia was never called Kororia, he was Elijah Njoroge. When did he become Kororia? Okay? Wamatinga was never called a tractor man when he was born. Then later he became a tractor. The only person we know who is a tractor is Baba. Yeye anaitwa Tinga. So, NADCO report, the same. It's working for them. NADCO said we'll have let me call suites for the elected leaders. Those suites will make them pass NADCO report. I said, should NADCO report come for referendum, I will vote it no. Because I didn't attend Maandamano to have CDF entrenched the way it is going to be entrenched. I didn't do that. Where is Wanjiku? When I come to where is Wanjiku, you look at our country is lying on the equator. We have the same temperature as Brazil. You see, where the equator passes, all those countries under the equator have the same temperature, the same climate, the same topography. Meaning, the temperature in Nairobi today, Mombasa, is the same temperature in Rio de Janeiro. Yes, believe it or not. So how comes Brazil is a second world? And Kenya is still struggling at the third world? How comes Brazil is producing more sugar than Kenya? And Kenya still can produce sugar? How can Brazil can produce more bananas as we are struggling to make Kisii banana even viable? We are lying under the equator, and many countries under the equator do well than us. Congo is under the equator. We have the same temperature. And other than Congo instability, Congo should be better than us, and they are still better than us because they don't give foods supplements the way we do. Unapangisha watu line wapatia chakula. How can Kenya do that? From there, I'm going to housing. I'm asking myself a very stupid question. We kept saying Kenyatta is a drunkard. He's a guy who doesn't know what happens in Kenya na kunywa pombe mingi. That drunkard built houses without taxing Kenyans. But the guy who carries the Bible is taxing us more. So do we still have a drunkard president? I think we should have more drunkard presidents. Because somehow they think.
Yes.
So what was Kenyatta doing that RUTO is not able to do? Where was Kenyatta getting the money? And if RUTO is taxing us, then why is he taking more money abroad to bring and build houses? So the question now remains, how long are you going to tax us? Because when you hear Our Lady in Health say that we are going to be taxed on NHIF, because I still want to call it NHIF, whether the name will change, then you realize that someone is telling you the other people who are not employed are going to pay a flat rate of around 300 per month. But you who is employed is going to pay 2,700 per month. Basically, I am going to pay more. The question is, are we going to be managed the same in the hospitals because I pay more? Because I need to sleep in a VVIP if I ever get sick. The guy who pays 300 should sleep in the ordinary area. Are we going to be managed the same? Yes. Why? Because you are taxing the guy to manage the other one. Why do you hurt other people for the other? So, was it wrong for other people to have employment that you hurt them for the others? We keep saying that Kenya is like America, is a capitalist state. Urongo, bro. Kenya is an ujamaa state right now. Tanzanian ujamaa of Nyerere is happening in Kenya as we see it. Where the more you have to be taxed for the others. Ukiwa na ng'ombe 10, madam hapa kana ng'ombe moja, maziwa yangu ya ng'ombe 10 bado she still needs them. And she can't work hard to get 10 cows for herself because she sees Eric has 10 cows. So Eric atanyonya tu maziwa ya Eric. That is the ujamaa we are putting in Kenya, where now you are hurting people who are employed for people who are not employed. And whereas you don't understand, in the book, The Rich Poor Dad, The Rich Dad Poor Dad, written by Kawasaki, the book says the person who is using makaa earns more money than the teacher wearing a suit. But you are taxing the teacher more. This guy anauza makaa is never taxed. So who's richer? So you're coming to the poor dad, yes, leaving the rich dad get richer. Why are you hurting Kenyans? Kenya is an ujamaa state, and put it in red. We are now ujamaa state, yes, where you will keep hurting the people who are, of course you can reach them because they have a salary, and leave the other people out. So if I have to pay this money, kindly tell me in 2,700 shilling that I'm going to pay, where can I be treated? Because I don't want to be treated like someone who is paying 300. I'm a special case. Yes. I pay more. I should get more and better management. Is that the Kenya we want, where we ask such a nasty question? Mm-hmm. That is the Kenya we have today. Yes. Because I'm asking, why are you charging me more, whereas the others are charged less, and we want to share the same mortuary, the same theater? Are you getting me? Mm-hmm. The same injections? I want to be in Nairobi also, where I'll have a meal that I want. Yeah. Their chefs will cook for me better meal. I don't want to go to the government hospital where you will give me sukotash. You know what sukotash is, by the way? We should teach Kenyans English.
What is sukotash?
It's another name of githeri.
Ah,
thank you.
Ah, maize meal.
Give it to him.
Yes,
give it to him.
Eric, sukotash.
Eric, let's open it like this then. Eric, the first division.
Yes.
What the opposition has kept on saying over time again, and Raila Amolo Odinga has already mentioned it, that it doesn't understand how a very contentious bill, and I want to bring to your attention that there's something that we're also looking at, that this particular bill that we're talking about here still hasn't got to the Senate. The members of parliament have already passed it, but we haven't seen the housing
members
bill.
Of the National Assembly.
Members of the National Assembly have passed it, but we haven't seen this tabled at the Senate. That what is the urgency in passing this bill? And is it okay for us to say that a bill has been passed within 3 days, as if it's a case of emergency?
Well, I must say, Simba, that we keep learning every day. I'm glad Ragalo is teaching us new vocabularies, yes. Sukutash, to mean githeri. And you know, predominantly githeri, when it comes to, I don't know whether it is a preserve of one community or many communities, but I grew up with githeri. I don't like it per se as a food because it was a very staple product in our household.
Is it?
I don't know whether other communities actually get to enjoy githeri together with a full potato inside.
And an avocado.
And an avocado. It's a very interesting dish. But let's move on to more serious matters. And this is concerning the affordable housing bill,
yes, sir,
that has been passed by the National Assembly,
yes,
and now waiting concurrence by the Senate. And this is what I must say. We must stop listening to the Jezebels, such as one Jezebel from Githongori and a team from Azimio, who, because they lack the tenacity to make hard decisions, they choose to walk away from a debate that is particularly very important and one that is pertinent in solving Kenyans' long outstanding issues. And for us to be able to run away from the Jezebels, we must ask ourselves the history of housing in Kenya, because people think that the housing bill is a preserve of William RUTO.
Yes.
You know, that's what people think.
Yes.
But let me take you a little bit back,
yes, Mungai, and
so that we understand.
Yes, and I'm sorry to cut you short before you rush to the history of the housing bill. Can you talk about the time, the record time that this bill...
Don't worry, I'll come to the record time, and you will understand why we have a record time in terms of execution. Because as I told you, the challenge with previous governments was the inability to plan effectively, and therefore execution on the floor of the House becomes difficult. And I'll explain to you why. Kenya is governed by sessional papers. You know, they are sort of papers that, medium term, that help Kenya plan. And the first sessional paper on housing was done in 2004 by none other than the president, His Excellency the late Emilio Mwai Kibaki. He saw the need, and he saw there was need to do housing, okay? But then that was overtaken by events because of the 2010 constitution. And so in 2014, another sessional paper was done to conform to the Constitution of Kenya, signed by the then Housing Cabinet Secretary under Uhuru Kenyatta, who was Professor Jacob Kaimenyi. And that is where you see that the whole housing thing now started getting shape, because then there was proper guidance on how housing should take.
Yes.
Now, when Uhuru came into power, that was part of the Agenda 4 that was supposed to be executed. But Uhuru got into a lot of legal headwinds, and finally he abandoned housing because he realized it was going to be a very difficult affair. But even though he abandoned it, he left it to a point where another government would actually take over and proceed with it. Because remember, it's not the first time that even the levy had been proposed. Uhuru had done the same. It was taken to court and he was defeated at the court level, so he abandoned the whole process. Now enter the President William Ruto with the Kenya Kwanza government. Now the reason why I say you must not listen to the Jezebels, especially those that come from Githunguri, is because talk is cheap. Walking the talk is a very difficult thing. I myself ran for a political seat under Kenya Kwanza government, specifically under UDA. We would stand on top of trucks telling Kenyans that we would do housing, telling Kenyans we would fix agriculture, promising all manner of things.
Yes.
Now, I do imagine that people might have thought that that was hot air then, but it was not hot air. When we stood on those tracks and we told Kenyans that we are no longer going to borrow, and Kenyans would clap for us, what did they expect? Where did they expect money would come from, if not from their taxes?
Why didn't you say it though? Why didn't you say it like that?
No, I'm just asking a question.
Yes.
Why wouldn't, or
yes.
if someone tells you, we will stop borrowing, and the reckless borrowing that had occurred up to 10 trillion, where did Kenyans imagine money would? Because sometimes we must look Kenyans in the eye and ask them the hard questions.
Yes.
And the hard question is
So
for
you-
us to be
so
able...
you lied to Kenyans?
No, we did not lie to
But you
Kenyans.
didn't,
The reality is...
You didn't ask them that question.
No, the reality is this. No,
Munga, you
when
did-
we told Kenyans...
You did not. Yes,
Listen,
you told them.
No, listen.
But then you didn't tell them where is it going to come from to construct these houses in your campaign.
Listen, when we told Kenyans we were not going to borrow...
Yes.
The reality is that we were going to use, and the president kept on repeating it, we are going to follow the Kibaki model of kujitegemea. Na kulipa ushuru ndio kujitegemea. There is no other way to it.
Pretty much.
Now, let me explain something.
Yes.
Because you see, the challenge with this affordable bill, and the reason why it had to be taken 3 days, it took only a minimum of 3 days, is because most of the issues had been canvassed. Remember, the Finance Act of 2023 ran into legal headwinds, and the High Court declared some provisions of it unconstitutional. And part of their recommendations was that the government must create a proper legislative framework, okay, to support the affordable housing, which now the government has done through the majority leader in the National Assembly, and come up with a proper bill, including even with the stakeholder engagement. And there are certain sections that have been repealed that were in the former bill, and this bill makes it a little bit better for Kenyans to be able to afford houses. Now, if you allow me, yes, with the record 3 days, this is what has been able to be achieved. Because you see, we keep on listening to naysayers, and Kenyans get lost into this whole, because what we focused on is the 1.5% on gross income that will be charged to Kenyans. But Kenyans also forget, or rather they are not reminded, that there are 3 categories of affordable housing. And this is very important even for me as a person seated in this house. I actually fall into the lowest category, and it is good because the government is thinking about me, so that I remind the viewer I'm not a government employee. Lest they think I'm enjoying the perks that Azimio through Baba and Ragalo and Joyce are enjoying. I am not enjoying those kind of perks.
Are you gonna get a house?
Yes, in fact now the bill makes it makes it much better because the three categories, there is social housing. Now, social housing is for people who earn 20,000 Kenya shillings per month and below, and I fall into that category, and I am a very happy Kenyan because then I can get a house from there. The second one is where Ragalo, maybe you Simba is where you fall. Between Kenyans earn between 20,000 to 149,000. That is the second category of affordable housing, which you might fall under. The third one is where people like Ragalo could fall, and that is market affordable housing, which is beyond 149,000, moving all the way to Ragalo can tell us how much he has. Now that is the third category.
Yes.
Now these categories are important for this simple reason, Simba. Kenyans will only pay an interest of 3% per annum. Just imagine, I earn less than 20,000. I am going to get a house through Boma Yangu, and I'll be paying an interest of 3% per annum on reducing balance of the houses. Now, do you know, Simba, and it's good to always remind Kenyans, a majority of Kenyans work in Nairobi.
And how much will that house be for?
Don't worry, I'll explain.
Just how much? Just tell me 10 million, 1 million.
That is why I'm here. Don't worry, and don't be in a rush.
2 minutes.
I don't even need 2 minutes to explain because I already know the answer. But the majority of Kenyans, where do they live, especially in Nairobi? If you take Thika Road, for instance, they live in Lakisama, they live in 44, they live in Kasarani, and many of those places. What is the average rent for a house? 2-bedroom house is 18,000. Okay. Now we Kenyans, especially those of us who live in Nairobi, we pay 18,000 for a 2-bedroom house for more than 25 years, and we will never own that house. And that is why Kenyans are being conned right, left, and center with what we call in Kikuyu broti maguta elsewhere. And Kenyans end up losing their money because they are looking to live in proper houses. And therefore, the affordable housing bill, which I am very sure and I have no doubt will become an act, is the answer to many a Kenyan who've always wanted to own a home.
Munga, you've not answered our question this morning.
What's the question?
Munga, yes, but then why 3 days?
I told you.
Why 3 days?
This is the challenge we have. In fact, I would wish that the 3 days that the National Assembly has taken to pass the affordable bill is what Professor Kindiki would also be using to process passports for Kenyans. Because already there is a precedent that has been sent by one government arm in terms of efficiency. I wish other government agencies could borrow from such level of efficiency and deliver to Kenyans.
So did they get it wrong because this particular bill still has to go back to the Senate House?
No, they have not gotten it wrong. It is going for concurrence, which is a legal matter.
Which is totally fine. I mean, what would have rather started from? If you didn't have a problem with the Senate, the National House, then you would have essentially said, well, can we clear it and pass it quickly as we can to the Senate?
No, but I do not see any challenge there. The bill, you see the bill, it is explained in the bill when you read the schedules.
Yes.
It has gone to the Senate for concurrence.
That's it.
So there is I find no issue with that.
Question being, I mean, do we have to pass it in 3 days?
In fact, if it were lesser, the better.
George, do we have to pass this bill in 3 days?
You wanted how many? 1 year?
Because indeed, as we said, the questions that might also come from the Senate, which essentially would also necessitate the National House to go back and start talking about these particular issues as well.
This is a government that is providing services selectively. It needs this housing bill to be passed in 3 days. Yet the same government takes 1 year to give you a passport.
And I agree.
It takes 6 months to give you an ID.
I agree.
It takes 1 year, 2 months. 1 year, 8 months for Kidiki to deal with bandits. and on and on and on.
I agree.
This is a government that is selectively choosing what I want and what I do not want. Allow me to take you back to my brother here. Passing the housing bill in 3 days. This is a government that even if you put drums and bells into its ears, it will not reason. The same government, agencies were taken to the housing committee,
yes,
read by the AG himself. That was 3 weeks back. That was 3 weeks back. AG Muturi was asked, give us your position in terms of the housing bill. It is in the public domain. I'm only happy that Eric perhaps that they did not listen to what AG Muturi said. Muturi said, this matter were never brought to my desk. I would have given a professional opinion. Mm-hmm. It is in the public domain region. The following day, they called the NLC chair and the CEO. AG Muturi was asked on the technicalities and the legal frameworks of the housing bill.
Yes.
NLC chair and CEO was asked a very simple English question. Who owns that land? You know what Wajiko today is saying? That land do not belong to the national government. That land belongs to the county government. So the national government is imposing itself into the county government. A leader in the Western Kenya said, yes, you are forcing the national government to undertake projects in the county government. Take the one in Kikuyu that the national government wants to deal with. The land is owned by the Kiabu County, yet being developed by the national government. 3 or 4 years, or say 10 years after Kenya Kwanza government is shown the door, or even 5 years, no, 3 years to come from now. Once they are shown the door, whose land, whose house does it belong to? Does it belong to the national government or the county government? I do not want to answer that one. When the former regime was dealing with the housing issue, it was all based on voluntary, not compulsory.
Yes.
Taxation is compulsory, not voluntary. Housing, why are you making housing compulsory? Why are you making
it is a constitutional?
Why are you making housing compulsory?
Yes.
Why are you not making education
compulsory?
Not compulsory. Raija, my brother Mugai, seems to be very new in Kenya. Those kids that did their class 8 last year.
Yes.
We do not have a 100% transition to the secondary schools. Early as late January, we still had like about 200 kids, 200,000 kids in our homesteads. The government have not seen making education compulsory, 100% transition, but only decides to selectively choose a service.
Why don't you tax us and take those kids to school then?
You've not asked kids, chiefs, mobilize these kids to go back to school. That is basic. That is basic. 1 minute, right?
Yes. Yes.
But you have found it wise to bulldoze the MPs to pass this bill. Since they were elected, we have some of them who have never opened their mouths in their guest house to deal with anything, but they only endorsed this bill. When Kenya Kwanza was doing its campaign, it said zero to borrowing, no borrowing. Again, it's in the public domain. My brother Eric Ragaro does not know this, but up to yesterday, this government had borrowed more than 3 trillion. 1 year, about 8 months to go. Yet when they were when Mugai was on top of a truck asking voters to deal with the Kenya Kwanza government, they said to zero borrowing. So we have seen a government that is lying to Wajiko. So even the manifesto itself is wrong. It's based on lies.
Yes.
So if you told us it's zero borrowing, then why do you have 3 trillion shillings you borrowed at a record of 1 year? The previous government had borrowed 10 trillion within 10 years. So if you have taken 1 year to borrow 3 trillion, how many trillions will you borrow between year 1 to year 5? And again, I do not want to answer that one. When the housing bill was brought and Kenyans were asked to test, there's a unit that is ready in Nakuru. And it was in the public dailies that anybody who wanted, make a deposit of 10%. The value of that house, whether it is based on the 10%, whether it is based on whichever the chronology that my brother Mugai had said, you have to make a deposit of 10%. 10% of 3.7 million, simple maths. Pegin Eric can answer that one, amounts to 370. How many households can afford 370,000? If you cannot afford to take your kid to school, for secondary school, with an annual fee of 55,000, if you cannot afford to take your kid for an annual fee of 55,000, you have to make a commitment of 10%. Don't you think we are living in a mirage? This is a government that is not willing to render its service to the people. These houses are not affordable. Perhaps begin Elijah.
Yes.
There's one Kenyan somewhere who is seated in the office, who is getting commissions against the cement that is being used, who is getting commission against the tumors that are being used. So we have entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs who are sitting and capitalizing on this housing project. Finally, before I conclude, in the Mount Kenya region, we have a lot of RAD being converted from the agricultural RAD to commercial RAD. And we're going to affect the agriculture and the food security in this country. So perhaps these persons who are busy fronting this bill have not done enough to deal with the issues pertaining around this housing. Nobody is disputing around these houses to be voluntary, to be acquired by persons like Eric. Because Joyce has a Simba in Kinago. I do not need another house.
Yes.
I only require like 1 or 2. But I do not, it does not mean that I must compulsory deal with this issue. I pray that even if it is passed within a day, a record of day, or even hours,
yes,
let it come back to the ground and it will be fought well, and the matter will not see the rest of the day.
Pretty much. Ragalo, you got an issue here that Mungai did not respond to. I mean, one of the biggest questions that the opposition has asked the current government is, well, how do you table a bill and discuss it within a record 3 days and pass it? The quality and the honesty around that particular discussion is a questionable. Number 2 as well, Ragalo, could you make us understand? Kimani Ichung'wah in Naivasha tells the president, well, Mr. President, by Friday, that thing is done and dusted. Now I want you to mark those words, that by Friday, before the next paycheck, that thing is done and dusted, so you don't have to worry about that. But then you expect that maybe once they go back to the National House and sort of get the opposition that they received within that particular session, you'd expect a different direction from the Speaker of the National Assembly, that is one Moses Wetangula. We listened to his deliberations, and his guidance was that any other person who had a problem, especially the opposing side, would talk to the committee, and they had a deadline by Wednesday noon. We sat here and said, well, by Friday, maybe that's when this thing is going to be passed, and probably we'll see the majority of those changes. Shock to us is that by Thursday, it was done. It was done and dusted. Is Moses Wetangula speaking with the same voice as Kimani Ichung'wah? Well, when you look at it, and is that ever okay? And Ragalo, why the hurry? Why the urgency in this particular issue?
I told you, if you take a Kenyan child today, and I think this is the 4th time I'm telling you the same sentence, and give him a civic question in GHC, and ask that kid civic questions regarding parliament, that kid will fail the exam, because what is written in the book is not what happens in parliament. And I told you, parliament, we know azimio is the majority in Kenya. But in parliament, Azimio is the minority. Where will that kid answer? One who answers majority will still be wrong. One who answers majority as per the constitution will also be wrong. It depends where you sit when you're marking the paper. You understand me?
Yes.
So, what is Wetangula teaching our kids? That everything is wrong except what you believe in. That which is right is what you believe in. That's what Wetangula is teaching us. Kenya Kwanza is teaching us what you say is right, but what you do is not what you say. My friend here said it well. We told them we are going to not tax them. Then we taxed them. And we didn't ask them, where do you expect the money to come from? So this is a country of liars. People who have, let me use the right medical word, and I'm teaching you every word today. We have, and I want you to listen to this word, viewers. We have what you call pseudoralgia fantastica. That is a medical word for someone who has urge to lie and lies without ceasing. Check that word. Pseudoralgia fantastica. That is a person who has urge to lie. You can Google Eric. It is a problem and it is a sickness that needs medication. In Mathare, you're given drugs by psychiatrists. Pseudoralgia fantastica. Some of us are in Kenya Kwanza are actually sick of this because we lie left, right, and center. So coming into the housing, Wetangula, we've seen Wetangula doing what his employer wants, and his employer is not Kenyans. It's the person who put him there. He made them be the majority against what we know, and that's why I told you, if you put in the paper, you'll say. So Wetangula, what Kimani Ichung'wah is saying is basically what they have discussed, plus Wetangula being there. Wetangula is the same person who went to court and challenging some court cases, whereas we have the AG.
Was that now clear last week?
It is clear. Wetangula is working for who? It's not working for the benefit of Kenyans.
Yes.
He's working for the benefit of William Ruto.
When Kimani Ichung'wah declares in front of the president that we're going to pass this thing by Friday, should have Wetangula addressed that and said, well, I do not understand why majority of you are declaring.
Let me do my job in parliament.
Yes.
We are going to follow procedures and timelines in parliament.
Yes.
So whatever you announce there is not what comes here. And that's when you would see it with one Marende.
Yes.
But now I'm asking Ichung'wah and company. And company means the Mount Kenya MPs, except one woman. I always say except one woman. The one they call Mogoroki from Githongori, I heard him say that. Eric said that. So that one woman, except that one woman. But now the question is, did they listen to the ground? Because last time they were saying they're listening, they're putting their head on the ground, and the ground is telling them, vote William Ruto. So now, today, I'm asking, did they put their head on the ground and the ground told them, vote housing? Go to this Mount Kenya, you hear people, what they're talking about housing. Nobody wants that crap. Let me call it crap. But they did put their head. And that's why when Ichung'wah went back to their home, what was being told, Ichung'wah was called names. The video is online. They were calling him Bibi Ruto.
Yes, and actually we're going to come back to that as well, because there are also now divisions based on the decisions that the government is making.
And actually, I saw a picture, a caricature that was created on Twitter, where now Ichung'wah is actually having a hairdo and some lipstick, and I was amazed. You will see it. I think you've even seen it. There's a hairdo. So I'm asking, did Ichung'wah see that?
Yes.
And why is Ichung'wah always talking about the Kenyatta family? What itches him with the Kenyattas? Because in that clip, as he's talking, he's saying, some MCAs here and some people have been sent by the Kenyatta family to come and boo me. That clip is all over. I'm asking myself, is he thinking of a Kenyatta family? And I'm asking, if Kenyatta family is so wrong, then I'm asking again a question. Now the government has gone to charging people in dollars. At no electricity, some people will be finding their bills in dollars. How are they going to disintegrate that these people should get their bills in Kenya shillings and this group of people should get their bills in dollars? Hey, William, give me my bills in dollars. I want to pay in dollars. I'm already giving myself open. Give me my bills in dollars. Yes. I think KPLC should charge me in dollars. I'll be very happy to go and, we are coming from USA, United CI Allego. We can afford dollars. I'll get my bills in dollars and pay them in dollars. As you create housing, as you charge us this amount of money, we should have done it as Mom had said here, that we do free primary education and make sure we take our kids in school. So I'll be glad to be charged taxation to make sure not even one kid sleeps without going to school. But now that one is not done. We have a place called Ruiru. We don't have a sewage in Ruiru. Or if we have, it is somewhere kwa kiwanja ya mpira. And we are building a housing up there. I'm talking of somewhere near Watalam. Very, very tall houses. I want to ask a stupid question. One flashes. Those are 2,000 people flashing together. That's amount of effluent going down. I'm asking, where do we have sustainable sewage system right now? Because should you build such houses, then you should even deconstruct a sewerage system and make a new. Do we have a sewerage system in many of these places? And Eric, you should assist me on this. This is a serious matter now, not politics. You should have a sewerage system. Create it and make it bigger and better and nicer. Just the way they used to say it, will bring it better and nicer, bigger, better. You remember those languages. So now, Embu, they have a sewage system. If you enter Embu, there's on the right, a very small thing. Now you're bringing those skyscrapers there. Are you going to make it better? Because what is going to happen, tutakuwa na seaway, unakumbuka tulikuwa nasema Sheng seaway, zinachapa kwa mabarabara. Kenya, in Nairobi already we have problem with sewerage system. Already which we have. Have we changed the piping from the old school piping of 1960s? In some of these estates like Jeri, Isili and other places, we still have those shauri, we still have those small sewer pipings. Have we changed them? Before you go to housing, look at the infrastructure that the housing uses vis-a-vis health and public health. Now you deal with housing the way you want to deal with it with thorax, then tomorrow now you charge us more on NHIF to treat people with cholera and dysentery and another infection that comes with, you get me, skin diseases. Zile mashilingi tulikuwa tumemalizana nazo zirudi, because now sewerage is all over. Zile minyo zilikuwa unakohoa inatoka na mapua na ingine inatoka huku kitembea, nyuma unakimbia na iko white thing behind you, zirudi. Some things we had forgotten. Are we going back there by being not practical?
Yes. On that particular issue for Moses Wetangula, and this is exactly about stepping
and
on.
Eric was looking at Pseudologia Fantastica.
Yes.
Did you get it?
The proclivity.
Actually, the real word is Mythomania Pseudologia Fantastica.
Oof. We're getting re-educated this morning, I'm telling you.
That's a medical condition.
Yes.
Suffered by you.
I want to take 45 seconds because we want to go for a tiny break and then really come back. Once you speak, we're going to see exactly what the president said this weekend about his agenda.
You cannot give me a tiny breather.
Oh, of course, we're going to come back. We're going to come back with you. We're going to come back with you as well. Is it ever okay that the majority leader will stand somewhere and say by Friday that particular issue is going to be done and dusted, and indeed once we go back to the National House, before that Friday, it's done and dusted? Is the National Assembly Speaker or the National House Chair of Business reading from the same script as the leader majority in the National House? Is it ever okay for those sort of to look concurrent?
I'll tell you one thing for a fact. The current majority leader is a performer. If you recall, in the previous regime, he was what Ndindi Nyoro is. in terms of the budget committee. He was the chair. And one of the sentiments he kept on raising was the fact that despite him being the chair, he was never at any one time consulted by the retired President Uhuru Kenyatta. In fact, many share the sentiment that the former president only reached out when he was doing a tongue lashing,
yes,
or when he was forcing you to do something, which is a complete departure from how the current president does things.
Yes.
And give credit to where credit is due and honor to where honor is due. The man did deliver while he was in charge of the budget processes. And now he's the majority leader. I can tell you for a fact, for a man who has taken less than 3 days to maneuver and to come up with a bill that not only sets the trajectory for housing in Kenya, but creates the right foundation for the future and for our children to have somewhere they can call home and to have dignified quarters. This is a man that we should not doubt his credentials, but rather we should accolade the things that he has been able to do.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, Raila Odinga,
yes,
during his tenure,
in 15 seconds.
In 15 seconds, yes, I'll come back and explain on why Raila Odinga, having been a member of parliament for Kibera, having set up the Kibera upgrading program, why that did not go through, and why this is the right time to rectify the wrongs of the past.
Pretty much. And once we come back, probably you will start on the fact that somebody somewhere is speaking about how they're going to conduct national house business, and the chair of the national house business, that doesn't necessarily correct them. It's like me saying, Mungai, I'm going to get you out of your house by Tuesday tomorrow. And you, as the leader of that house, essentially doesn't come out to say, well, it doesn't work like that, unless then that's exactly what's going to happen. Once we come back right here on the morning drip, there are other issues that we're going to look at next. Is that why is it possible? Or why is it that Dragalo, up to this point, we're here talking about how they passed that bill, how they passed it quick and quicker that. Why is it that up to now we've not seen notable members of parliament from the Azimio side calling out the rest of their members who never turned out either to debate on that particular issue? And by the way, we looked at the Nation newspaper last week. They said they established that majority of the opposition members of parliament, it's not like they weren't there. They were there in the precincts of the National Assembly, but just did not go in to vote. That is a red flag by itself. Why haven't we seen majority of members of parliament from the opposition side coming to condemn that behavior from their colleagues? Once we come back right here on the morning drift. Also, there are divisions building up somewhere. Kimani Ichung'wah essentially is not being allowed to speak this weekend. Why? We address that once we come back. And RUTO, and Kalonzo Musyoka and Martha Karua are also in sort of some teeth, and Nyanza is also saying, we need a leader. Why and how? We'll be telling you once we come back right here on the morning drift.
Kiangazi imedhiri sana katika area hii yetu ya Laikipia. Mara mingi sana katika Laikipia kuna wafugaji na kuna wakulima. Hakuna yule ambaye amesaidika, hata wakulima pia wajasaidika na wafugaji pia wajasaidika. Lakini kwa siku ya leo tunasema kwamba RUTO Foundation imetusaidia sana, kwa sababu inalisha jamii ambaye hawana nguvu ya kupata lishe mahali moja au nyingine.
Tulikuwa tunalala hoi. Ukweli kabisa. Mimi siamini. Hata mtu mwingine jinsi tumeleta hapo usiku alikuwa amesimia. Alikuwa na siku 3 hajaumwa kitu. Kwa hivyo tunashukuru sana RUTO. Leo watoto wengi ameshiba.
Nashukuru Mungu kwa RUTO Foundation siku ya leo. Maana wamekuja at least manyumba 100 leo na 10 itaweza kunuka kitunguu jioni ya leo. Tulikuwa na njaa, si mchezo, ilikuwa na njaa, si ya ile ya kusema iko njaa.
Ya kwanza tumekuwa na watoto ambao wameshikwa na hata watu wazima na utapia mlo, na pia tukiangalia hii ni area ambayo imejaa watu ambao wana rely na mifugo, na mifugo mingi imeweza kuisha kwa sababu ya kiangazi, na tunashukuru sana the RUTO Foundation kwa msaada wao ambao wameweza. Asanteni sana.
Every time you play Lotto, 25% goes to the RUTO Foundation, which supports our fellow Kenyans through various causes. Thank you for your help. Together, we are changing lives. Are you an SME looking for a media partner? Look no more, as Lookuptv got you covered for all your visibility and marketing needs. We at Lookuptv understand your business needs and want to work with you on your marketing journey, giving you solutions that will take you to the next level. Call us today on 0707 572 358 or send an email to sales@lookuptv.co.ke and kickstart this amazing journey. Welcome to Lookuptv, your official SME media partner.
If you want to have a proper outlook of the economy, then you have to speak to the wheels and gears of the integral businesses in the country.
And I want to be able to make the youths and everybody coming up in Kenya know that this is here locally.
Men and women in the thick of the bust of markets rising and falling, fighting to make their business decisions stick.
I've always lived in my career that I can never be late.
You need to train by yourself. You need to practice by yourself. Then from there you can compose yourself and give kind of services like that.
On season 2 of the Captain's Arena, we seek the inside of the minds, predict the shift in the markets, get inspiration to start, and make sense of it all.
Just watch what everybody else is doing and just make sure you're giving back to the society.
This is the Captain's Arena.
Right, all right. Welcome back to Lookuptv. My name is Simba Kiage. Let's then get into touch with what we're supposed to discuss in the second part of Ascension. But the president was speaking yesterday, just before we go back to Mr. Mungai, to explain to us why indeed it's ever okay for the leader of majority in the National House to declare the timelines that they're going to use to discuss house bills of house businesses. Well, the president was speaking yesterday, and this is exactly what he said about his plans to continue implementing his agenda despite the much opposition that he is facing. Let's take a look.
With the Kenya Kwanza government under constant scrutiny over implementing its campaign manifesto, President William RUTO has reiterated his commitment to implement his campaign manifesto, noting that the country will witness immense change under his administration.
We must love this country enough to be able to make the sacrifices that will make this country great. Na sote tukiungana hivyo, Kenya itaenda mahali pazuri. I am very confident that Kenya is going to be a greater country than we have ever imagined.
Speaking during IPCA's centenary celebrations, RUTO defended his healthcare plan, insisting that it was the only way to ensure everyone gets quality and affordable healthcare.
Tuko na community health promoters 1,100 sasa katika taifa letu la Kenya. Tuko na program ya sheria mpya 4 kwa sababu tunataka kuhakikisha kwamba hakuna Mkenya tena atauza mali yake kulipa gharama ya hospitali. Tunataka gharama ya hospitali ilipwe kwa taratibu, serikali ya Kenya itapanga.
The head of state also emphasized on the need to enhance food production in order to avoid over-reliance on food importation.
Mimi vile vile nataka ulize. Asma yetu moja ni kuhakikisha ya kwamba tunaondoa aibu ya njaa katika taifa letu la Kenya. Tumeamua kama serikali ya kwamba badala ya kutumia pesa zetu kuagiza chakula kutoka nje, mahindi, ngano, mchele na yale mengine yote, kwenda mbele tutasaidia wakulima wetu Kenya wazalishe chakula hapa Kenya na tutumie hiyo pesa kununua chakula kutoka wakulima wetu.
Yet again, President William Ruto highlighted his plan on the education sector, with the government setting aside further funds to ensure everything runs smoothly.
Mwaka uliopita tuliajiri waalimu 56,000. Mwaka huu tutaajiri waalimu 20,000. Budget yetu tumeongeza karibu bilioni 127 ya kusaidia masomo ya watoto wa taifa letu la Kenya. Na waomba wana AIPCA katika msukumo huu wa kuhakikisha ya kwamba vijana wa taifa letu la Kenya wanapata masomo, wanapata taaluma, wanapata nafasi ya kuleta mchango wao kupitia kwa elimu.
Pretty much. Now, that is the president again speaking about the plans that he has for implementing his agenda, and we're going to come back and talk about it. Mr. Yes. Yes. Yes.
50,000.
Yeah.
I want to correct. There are no teachers that have been employed. They are on internship. So internship is not employment. We need them employed. And that's why the other day we saw those teachers talking on TV asking for employment. They have not been employed. They are on internship. So
Mr. Mugai, could you clear them, because the same question that I'm going to put to Joyce and Bagalo this morning as we continue with our conversation. Could you be clear on this? Is it ever okay for the leader majority to declare the timelines that they're going to take to discuss a certain bill, and then the National House Speaker doesn't correct it?
The majority leader, Kimani Ichung'wah, was on point and on target in declaring the timelines, because when you're a leader, you set precedents and you set pace in terms of how you need to get things done. But be that as it may, I am equally disappointed with the more than 140 members of parliament who actually displayed a Jekyll and Hyde personality.
Yes.
It's a psychological condition, as the doctor would have us this morning. It appears it's a morning to learn new terms. Those MPs exhibited a Jekyll and Hyde personality.
Yes.
Why? Because they blow hot and they blow cold. Let me pick a particular example, being what's the opposite of a cowboy from Gedongori, who has been at the forefront in fighting the affordable housing. And on that particular day when it came to voting, she was one of the 149 MPs who was a no-show. If you look at the numbers that enabled the bill to pass, if it is true the Azimio brigade are so averse to the housing bill, they would have stayed in the House and voted against it. But what did they do? They assumed that Parliament is a place where you go to practice choir songs, and therefore they decided to go and sing the songs outside the House instead of voting in the House. And therefore it tells you these are people who did not want to antagonize the state, because of course the state is sponsoring their lead candidate to go to the AU, and therefore instead of creating acrimony, they chose to stick it out.
Is that the reading that you give it?
No, that's the reading. That's actually the true meaning, because if you're so opposed to something that you think is taking the country in the wrong direction, I mean, cowards die many times before they die. It is an act, even though we in Kikuyu sometimes say, yes, it is true, the coward went home to the mother alive, and that's a direct translation, by the way, but it does not make sense for you to run away from that which is a salvation to your people. If it is true that this affordable housing is bad, if it is true that this affordable housing bill is the worst thing that has ever happened in the country, isn't it incumbent upon the members of parliament to go back to the house instead of rallies and vote against it, because then they are representatives of the people? But when you see more than 149 cowards run away from the house and allow the bill to sail through, it is actually an admission that yes, we like this affordable bill, yes, it is good for the country, but for now we are not willing to take the political responsibility to support something that is useful to Kenyans in the long run. That is the only way to interpret it.
What is the other side of the coin as well?
There is no other side. That's the only side of the coin.
How do you
that
how do you respond then to the people who are saying that indeed, if that is exactly what we saw, then somebody must have gone in and dangled the sweets in front of them and told them, well, if you do not support this one, we're also waiting for you because we know that you have a say, or there's something that you need in the next bills that we're going to discuss.
One of the constitutional requirements for a candidate to run for a member of parliament is that, one, they must be 18 years and above. Secondly, they must be of sound mind. I want to believe that those two credentials apply to all members of parliament. Therefore, to come and say that some of them were induced to vote in favor of the bill, therefore negating the fact that they are not of sound mind and they are not adults, simply beats the purpose. The truth is, the members of parliament who voted for the bill on the floor of the house are of sound mind. They voted with a clear conscience that even though politically this is not tenable now, it is something the country needs for the future. And those are the kind of leaders that we need for this country, by the way.
How is it that you
not the cowards, remember Simba, not the cowards.
How is it that you agree?
Who go to TV stations, who go to radio stations, who stand in front of podiums and dioceses when it comes to the public. How is it? But when it comes to where it matters the most, which is the floor of the house, they abdicate.
How is it that you agree that it's not by accident that the older papers essentially have a chronology of events where you're talking about CDF first, then we talk about the housing bill, then we're going to talk about the NATCO report, by the way, which, if you listen to the sentiments that were coming from the National House, is that we're going to adopt those proposals in the NATCO report. How do you agree that indeed it's not by accident that that chronology looks like that? But then you disagree when we say, well, majority of this coerced to vote in the way they voted.
But chronology notwithstanding, Simba, does CDF only benefit Mount Kenya MPs?
No, it doesn't. It benefits every other member of parliament.
So why would the members of parliament sit down and vote for their own cake and walk away to something that interests a majority of Kenyans? That is why I'm telling you. That is why I am using the right word. I am using the right word and calling them for what they are: cowards who continue to exhibit Jekyll and Hyde personality.
Before you call them cowards, I mean, we do agree that indeed
it is not before proceeding to call them cowards.
Okay. But now that you've called them cowards, I mean, if we do agree that indeed when it comes to majority voting in the National House, we do know which way it does go and which way we'll go. When you have members of parliament who have been told, well, there's a NATCO report here that is essentially going to give you more powers to control those CDF kitties. So if you do not support this one, chances are that when it comes to that, we're going to shoot you guys down. Is that not essentially then saying, well, we were held at gunpoint, that's why we couldn't even make a move on that? If you do agree that this is a chronology of events that is now happening in the National House.
First and foremost, there is no one who held the gun to anyone. I am just telling you that, you know, politics is about horse trading. But my concern is these MPs who stand on podiums every weekend, who go to TV shows every morning, noontime and evening, castigate the affordable housing bill when it matters the most, which is the floor of the house. Simba, you see the way I'm speaking this morning on Lookuptv, okay? My vote will not count. Me speaking here will not count when it comes to the floor of the house. Where it matters in terms of it becoming law is where my member of parliament casts a vote. Now, if my member of parliament grows cold feet and disappears from the floor of the house, I have a right to call him out for whom he is, a coward. I mean, it's a simple, we can theorize
We can put submissions here and put all manner of things. But the underlying word is that cowards die many times before they die.
Joyce, probably help us look at this particular event or this particular situation like this. So far, as it is, we've not had any member of the Azimio coalition come out to castigate the members of parliament for failing to appear in the National House to vote against that particular bill, like they did it in the first round. You do remember very well that some members of parliament, including Atenda Molo, had to go in and answer to the secretariat as to where they were when the rest of them were in the National House voting on this particular bill. Good. This time around, nobody has come out to castigate them. And then we're saying here that if you look at the House business all the way from recession up to where they are right now, there's sort of a chronology of events. Number one, you have the leader majority saying by Friday, this thing is done and dusted. Then when they come back from recess, you essentially see them talking about CDF first, and then after the housing bill, and then immediately during that period when they sort of, and I'm saying sort of in quotes, know that this thing essentially is going to go because we've dangled the fruits good for them, they start to say, well, we are going to look into that NATCO report and we're going to adopt those particular proposals. Which is what I'm saying, that if you're going to talk about capture of sorts, it's what is playing in front of us. Are you going to support the sentiments of majority of critics who are saying, well, the Kenya Kwanza government is gone in and captured that National House?
The definition of the state capture, Wajiko capture, is spraying in our eyes.
Yes.
Allow me to take you back again to Naivasha. The first day the head of state had a candid discussion with members of who are present in Naivasha.
Yes.
Remember, it was an issue of some jobs abroad, and it played well in broad daylight.
Yes.
The MPs told the president that they have no idea that there are some jobs abroad. The president was brought the raggle down to Kiswahili. Yani nyinyi hamuonagi hiyo makazi ya mimi naongea Kizungu.
Yes.
Mogai has put it very well. These are persons who are clueless, who do not read, who do not have the interest of Wajiko at heart. They only have personal interest at heart. And in politics, it's all about interest. So literally, last week, it was not about the interest of Wajiko.
Yes.
It was personalized interest.
Will you call them cowards like Mungai called them?
I will call them cowards in capitulator. But
yes,
when you take us back to the issue of the majority leader and the head of the National Assembly,
yes,
we are finding ourselves in a catch-22 situation. Lack of protocol and procedure. That you know where you are supposed to talk and where, and when to keep quiet and when not to talk. When the leader of majority wakes up and start abdicating roles of the national speaker, then that is why we have some infightings within the Kenya Kwanza. That where Ishungwa thinks that he is more senior, superior than Wetangula himself.
Yes.
Let us even not go to the National Assembly, Raja, for once.
Yes.
What is happening in Nakuru with the Nakuru War Memorial Hospital? The courts have come out, declared themselves, and the governor has refused to release Nakuru War Memorial Hospital. In this country, we have some persons who have more control than others, and that is why we find the center is not holding.
Yes.
This issue of the MPs being called aside. Last time when our Sylvester Osoro was saying, he bought for them some marege soup, and they agreed to pass one bill. It's only this time that perhaps Osoro was asked not to keep quiet. He would have said he called some aside and bought them some soup. So this is where we find that these members of the National Assembly, this time round, they have no interest of Wajiko at heart.
Yes.
Wajiko is tired. Wajiko is tired.
Yes.
And Wajiko is taking stock. When that list was produced last week, Kenyans took their papers and pens and they started rocketing where their members of parliament voted. My own member of parliament is in the opposition but voted for yes. Now we are back on the ground.
That is a hero.
It's a hero. It's a hero. It's a hero to the it's a hero for Mogai's purposes.
Yes.
But me, I found it awkward. Because when he was on the ground, he sang a different song.
Yes.
And when we went to the floor of the house, he sang a different song. Of course, he's making it easier for his competitors to have a dance in the day.
Yes.
But allow me to tell you this. When Ichung'wa wakes up and says that it will be done and dusted within the span of one day, he knew what he had done. Osoro had preempted that discussion with a pumpkin soup. That is how this government have captured the might of Wajiko, the interest of Wajiko. That we can sit in a boardroom, drink a bowl of pumpkin seed soup, and decide the fate of this country. This country will not be led by minority people who sit in one room and decide to turn tables against the interest of Wajiko.
In this particular situation, who's smarter than the other? I mean, is it not the person who's essentially introduced this house business in this order? Saying, well, guys, you got CDF here, but the only way you guys are going to take full control of this CDF is through us ratifying that NATCO report and discussing it quickly as that. Hey, but before that, guys, you have to support us pass this particular bill for the housing.
My brother Eric today woke on the right side of the bed, Mugai.
Yes.
The first statement was the president of this country is smart and clever. Those were his opening statements. And this is the president that I saw giving now terms and conditions for survival in that august house. That so long as this is my bill, I'm going to hold you hostage.
Mm-hmm.
It is I give you, you give me. If you want the NCDF bill to be passed, I'll do it. I will sign that bill. But before I sign it, Kaidre, when you're bringing those bills, I need 4 bills to be presented. You'll have one of your bills and bring 4 others. Among us, the 4 others will be the shift bill. The shift bill again will also be concluded this week. So it will not be the housing bill alone. It will be among us other bills.
Yes.
But whether that is done or otherwise, the final say do not matter whether it is what Tagura said it or Ichung'wa said it.
Yes.
It will be Wajiko.
That's it.
Come this week, when the pen and paper will be brought together, we still have the 7 days. It will be taken to the Kenya Gazette for publication. Then we start the business from there. From next week, Elijah. That is when Wajiko will start discussion. Don't be scared of what happened last week. Don't be scared of my brother, what Mogai is saying, that a record of one day. The Senate will deal with this in a matter of hours. Kaide deal with it. Because he who calls the paper have already done the song. But come next week, that is when the rubber will meet the road.
Yes.
And the rubber will meet the road. When there will be orders from the court. So why do you need to go that far for you to be embarrassed? Some persons like my brother Ragaro said, they are pathological liars. They have no motives whatsoever on why they are lying. It is a state capture for Wajiko, and time will be next week when the rubber will meet the road. That is when the business will run.
Does that, but Ragalo, but please this morning indulge us, and Mungai, I just want you to listen carefully, because for a man who speaks for what is supposed to happen in that national house, Ragalo should be that man. Ragalo, up to this particular point, I mean, tell us why the Azimio coalition has not castigated its members for failing to appear in the National House for voting on that particular bill. The way that it was done when this finance bill, if you do remember the finance bill of 2023, that had the housing levy inside of it, essentially was tabled the first round. I mean, we've not seen letters from the Secretariat asking members of Parliament to explain where they were when other members of Parliament were voting on this particular bill. Why does not happen?
I will not talk for Secretariat, but I think it was on Thursday.
Yes.
Then we had Friday, then a weekend. I hope Monday today, someone should be telling me from the Secretariat why. I'm also wanting to know why.
Those are 3 days, Ragalo. I mean,
of course, let me put it's 1 day.
Yes.
Because let's give I'm also on the side of why.
Yes.
So let's give them a latitude that it was a weekend. And we are going to get to know back to work on a Monday. Why?
Yeah, case in point. But even the man who's now speaking heavily at the absence of Raila Amolo Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, has not even spoken about this particular issue.
Yeah, that's
Why
what
is it
I'm
not
telling you.
Yes.
I'm giving it a latitude that it was a
Can I remind
weekend,
you? Yes. Can I remind you? Yes. Last time
I remember
out,
they talked on a Sunday.
Immediately.
Yes. Actually on a Sunday.
On a Sunday. Yes.
That's what I'm saying. I want to give them a doubt that it was on a weekend and they had gone to pray. Remember, Ben Hinn was in the country, having been brought by our money, and they were so religious, the way my friend said, and some people were praying in the house, some people were praying on top of trees.
Yes.
And it was not a time.
Does it sound like a man who has no explanation?
It was not a time to fight.
Does it sound like a man without an explanation?
I'm actually having an explanation. I'm just being funny and telling you maybe it was just a game.
Yes.
But and I also put that Ben Hinn was in the country, having used a lot of dollars from us to bring him in, just for us to even go ask for husbands, which was very important. I don't know, what did you ask for, my friend? Me, I asked for nothing because Ben Hinn cannot pray for me. I'll pray for myself. And I don't believe in Ben Hinn. Why would you go for someone in America? We have even people in Uganda here who can pray for us. We even have people from South Africa who would have been brought even cheaply. A rand is just basically 7 bob. So we would have brought someone, other than using 160 per dollar to bring that guy. I don't know how much dollar, and then you put in a 6-star hotel, not even 5-star. And close Nairobi, you could see what was happening, and it was crazy. But what I'm putting is, anyway, kuna watu watenda binguni, and I hope wataokoka ukweli, and will not see lies in the government now, going forward, because I see people who wear skimpy dresses, who are actually wearing long dresses up to here. That day, they never even wanted us to see their necks. Actually, it was even covering to here, ni siku ya kuokoka. If you could see them walk in, some were covering up to the neck. You can't even see her chest. It was the day God had arrived. Ben Hinn is a respected person. He carries God on his back. What hurts me more is that some of our people were not even recognized. Nganga was not recognized. Ezekiel was seated there, white, stuck white like an angel, was not recognized. My friend Kunanuru Gizani was seated next to Ezekiel. Nobody recognized his presence. I would even have requested someone to say, Pastor Ezekiel, ameketi pale, raise your hand. Oh, kuna Nuru Gizani. Aya, Nganga uko pande left pale, inua mkono. I expected that. So nobody recognized our people. Meaning, do they even pray the real God, or it is just a Karumanzira and story there and there?
I'm getting told they were recognized in that particular event yesterday.
Elijah, allow me to answer on his behalf. Allow me to
you can
please take
You're becoming Mungai this morning. I've never seen you like that.
Allow me to answer.
I've never seen you.
No, you're not assisting. Let me just finish this.
To you this morning. I'll give Ragalo, I've never seen you like this.
I'll give my sister.
It was a direct question.
1 minute. Then it is direct question. Let me come to the direct answer, because I don't mean to my one.
Yes.
Could RUTO has made capture? Yes. I told you the only place that RUTO has not captured and is working on it is judiciary. One day I said here, he's taken care of the parliament, he's taken care of the executive, he's working on the judiciary.
Yes.
Then after he gotten the judiciary, then we are done and dusted, he'll get the IBC. Then there will be no need to do an election. We'll just go do our Karumanzira, then RUTO will be president again. So it is a continuity of capture, and I still wait for the State Capture Commission, which Ishunga was working on. Why is it taking too long? Because some of these things take too fast. I don't know why it's taking too long. The second is Peremende. The MPs could have gotten Peremende, some of them to get out. It's just to make sure these things, they are not seen and they are not fought by their own people.
Yes.
Thirdly, could RUTO be gaining ground on their places so they feel pressured? I'm answering a question with also kind of a thought. Of course, he may be gaining ground in Ruiru, so the Ruiru MP doesn't want to be seen as fighting it. So he'd rather, I'm giving an example, he'd rather miss than vote for or against. He'd rather miss. I'm giving an example. I didn't say that's what he did. Of course he voted yes, but I'm saying I'm giving an example of a constituency.
Yes.
Then I'm looking at it and asking myself, what is Wanjiko saying on the ground? Were these people are these people supporting the housing? But then Wanjiko on the ground is saying, we want to see you vote yes, we'll lynch you alive. Then they decided I'd rather not go. So rather not go was safer to them. So it is actually a vote over yes.
If you don't vote, you're voting yes.
Yes, because they titled the figure. 58 people that voted no, congratulations, and thank you very much. 141 people that voted yes, congratulations and thank you very much, because you are man and woman enough to sit there and vote. The people who missed, congratulations backward, because you voted yes and no, but you voted yes. Because missing to vote is actually voting. And brother, let me tell you, this is what I tell people. The number of people who never voted in this election, which was almost half the number of people who voted, okay, they actually voted RUTO. Yes, they actually voted for this government. Because there's no way you can tell me you didn't have a brain and you don't think. You have a civic education, you went to civic school, you went up to Form 4. By the time you hit 18, you're a reliable voter, you already finished secondary education. You can't tell me you missed on anything. So why are we like this in this country? We are like this in this country because we fear that if I'm seen doing this, I'm going to be punished. Could the Raila factor handle it? Maybe yes. Some people thought, if I vote against, I'm hitting on Jacom, and Jacom might not get his seat.
Yes.
The Jacom I know would stand for the truth. That's why he said, I'd rather lose my job, but plant trees in Mau. Did he lose his job? Of course he did. Afadhali nene nipike mandazi nyumbani. Alienda kupika mandazi, he did. If that is what Jacom stands for, then the MPs should have stood with what Jacom believes in. Some of them are cowards, like said. But what I believe is not that they are coward. Cowardice is not the word. The thing is they have been bought off. They have pressure from home. The pressure is not from their people, but from the government, because some government, there are grounds being taken by the government. This is what we see all over. People being driven and forced to support the government. And this is what is happening all over. So why would Wamushomba fight back and still stand till today? Because Wamushomba works for the people. 5 months ago, Wamushomba took 100 kids to Germany. Do you know that? Eric knows. She went, negotiated, and assisted uplifting of 100 youths from her constituency to Germany. That is 100 youths from 100 families.
Yes.
Equate that. Well, how many votes are that? So, Wamushomba would do whatever, would vote the way she wants with her conscience because her back is covered. There are people who have their back open. One, corruption has hit them, so they can't fight the government, because should they fight the government, they'll find themselves on Oparanya way of getting whatever, being followed by the integrity.
Yes.
EACC. The number one governor for 10 years. Number one governor, every year for 10 years. Nobody beats Oparanya. Right now, Oparanya is being followed for stealing. Number one governor. So what was number last then? How would number last be? Have you ever thought of that? If number one governor has stolen, in quotes, then that stadium should not be standing there. The roads in Kakamega should not be as clean as they were. The hospital in Kakamega should not have been built. You know, there is a hospital built at a level 6 hospital, whereas we still have Kakamega level 5. You know, Kakamega provincial is still standing there. Then he built another one. The corrupt governor who led all governors for 10 years did all that, but still is corrupt. Then I'm asking myself, number last governor in the listing, why is he not being investigated? Or is that governor was the most prudent and was never corrupt, though number last? We saw in Machakos roads that were being carpeted, the next day they are being away. But they are corrupt. Oparanya is corrupt, even leading for 10 years. Kwani tunaishingi Kenya gani? Kama Oparanya anaweza kuwa mwizi na amekuwa number 1 10 years. Ask Eric for me.
Yes, yes.
Oh, assist me. I'll give you some
Joyce, there's something that you wanted to talk. I'm going to give you a minute before I cross over to Mungai. Yes.
Eric was about eating words, but he came to the point again.
That's it.
Party structures was the answer to your question.
Yes.
My own party, the Jubilee Party, have a party structures that are weak and have crumbled. We have 2 parallel groups that are fighting.
Yes.
So we cannot have 2 memos written from 2 parties addressed to 1 person. We have the current SG,
side.
the Sufuria side is my brother Eric,
yes.
Who did not attend yesterday chat, because if he attended, he would not have mentioned the Sufuria. And we also have the Kaninikoru side, which is also worrying. Go to Karonso, go to Wiper group, who are deemed to be the beneficiaries of the Raila assuming leadership at the AU.
Yes.
So they cannot antagonize the position of the House last week. Allow me to go back straight to Eric's party. This is the ODM. This is the 100% beneficiary of the AU job. When they went to Naivasha, that was the deal. That for the whole of this year, we are going to sing the song of Raila. And on your part, any bill that comes to the House, Otiede, pray cool, pray diplomacy. Talk anything that you want, but most of your members must be seen to be opposing it, and others must be seen to be supporting it. The AU job will be due from February next year. So for any bill that the current leadership that wants, that is contentious, will be okayed this year for the purposes of securing this seat. Yes. Remember that Uhuru Kenyatta wanted that seat, but powers that be, from what Murade told us yesterday, he said he had decided to back down from the seat. So it already leaves Raila Odinga to this position. Over the weekend, when he went for the burial of Malawi's president, he was then mingling with the president and former head of state. But he was still canvassing for the same. So when they went to Naivasha, they were told, if you want to secure the leadership of Raila to AU, you must play song to what we are saying.
Yes.
And it was by strategy, by design, that some of you must go and some of you must oppose it, so that it is seen like we are not playing songs. Because the only person who can write a letter, a farm letter, and charge fines is not the Jubilee Party. Yes. It's not the Wiper Party. It's only the ODM Party. So because the ODM Party have been compromised, then we do not expect anything new. From today till the end of this year, we don't expect anything new.
Pretty much. Mr. Mugai, just before I cross over to Joyce again, we only have 15 minutes left for this one, so I want you to be quick at that. Since we're talking about divisions, I want you to make sense of why a man who speaks the voice of the president, which you would like to imagine is the voice of the people as well, would face a tough time to address a crowd immediately after passing what is deemed to be a very popular bill in the face of Kenyans, especially in his own county. Why would Kimani Ichung'wah essentially find it very difficult to address a crowd on the back of this victorious week at the National House?
For him and for Mount Kenya people, yes. Especially Kiambu.
I'll tell you.
Because that is what the ground was saying.
I'll tell you something for a fact.
Yes.
That Ichung'wah is my good friend.
Yes.
He's an arrogant man, so to speak, in terms of the way he carries himself and the way he does things.
Okay.
Perhaps even further to the way he talks. But him being arrogant has nothing does not affect his execution in terms of his duties.
Does it?
It could be a character flaw on his part, but one that does not affect the way he does things. He gets things done, which I think is important. The issue of him being heckled in Mount Kenya is an issue that needs to be put into context.
Does it?
Because the challenge of bites is that we choose to focus on that which we want to focus without providing it context. And I'll provide that context. The context is that the event is in Lari. The president has gone to open a tarmac road there. And the governor of Kiambu, who, by the way, today's newspaper,
yes,
we can see is the stingiest governor that ever existed on the face of Kenya. He's refused to pay suppliers. It is rumored allegedly he eats alone. He doesn't want to share with anyone. That is today's Daily Nation. You can see that the man is very stingy to a point that despite collecting a lot of money, he cannot pay suppliers who are committing suicide left, right, and center. That is how stingy the man is. But that stingy man has a budget to ferry in loads of people in buses and ferry them to wherever the president goes in Kiambu.
Yes.
So that
yes,
they can ululate.
From where, Mungai? From where exactly?
No, you see, it does not matter even if he gets them from Kericho or Kisumu.
Yes. No, but
so long as they have been paid.
They're speaking
so long as,
they're speaking
it doesn't
dialect.
matter. You see, he who pays the piper calls the tune, and therefore, for those that have received payment, they are likely to sing in the key that Wamatangi wants them to sing. Now, let me provide context further. Please do not interrupt. Okay. Let me provide context.
Continue, Mungai.
So he ferries people in buses to go and ululate when he's speaking and shout down his detractors when they are speaking. To the extent that the Kiambu women rep and the president and the deputy president himself spoke to the issue and reprimanded the politicians that were present on the specific issue of ferrying people to come and heckle some and to come and ululate on behalf of others. And why that is important to provide context is because when you take a clip where people are heckling Ishongwa, it provides the wrong picture, and yet those are people who had been paid. Remember, it's not politics time. Ishongwa has no reason to ferry people to Lari to go and speak on his behalf. He doesn't need those people now. The only person who is able to do that is the current governor, because of his inefficiency and his inability to govern the county well, and because he is a man who must always be massaged. He must provide himself an avenue and a ground where people can massage his ego. But for the rest of the leaders, including Alice, Honorable Alice of Thika, Kawanjiko of Kiamba, and many other leaders, they don't require their egos to be massaged. Why? Because they are delivering as to the mandate they were given by the people.
Yes.
And it was important to provide that context so that people stop saying that Ishongwa is facing hostility. I said he's a proud man, but being proud has never been an obstacle to anyone delivering their duties.
Somebody would ask in the context of Kimani Ichung'wah and Governor Wamatangi, what is the conflict?
No, the conflict is that Ishongwa has been very vocal in calling out Wamatangi for Wamatangi to deliver services to the people.
Yes.
That has rubbed Wamatangi the wrong way because Wamatangi is not paying suppliers.
Yes.
He is overshooting the budget when it comes to buying of chicks and providing those chicks to the people to an extent that he had to go and see a doctor because his hands, Wamatangi is not a young man. Let's put it into context. Yet he stands the whole day carrying 50 bags of fertilizer, and every bag must pass through his hand. Every bag, even if it is 3 trailers, every bag, it's like he's going to the gym in the village. He receives a 25 kg bag and gives to the people. 25 kg. He had to go to the hospital because of his age and his frailty. He had overstrained his body.
Is it okay to say allegedly went to the hospital because of that?
It is not alleged. It is for a fact. It is only that the doctor's reports are confidential.
Yes.
But what I am trying to say is that Wamatangi is antagonistic towards the Kiambu leaders because they keep on questioning his credentials and his ability to govern the county.
Joyce, just quickly at that as well. I want to take 2 minutes on this before I give the baton to Juan Regalo. Do you share the same sentiment? I mean, the accusations of, yes, you very people to come here and boo me because you were going to attend this particular event. Could that be the reason as to why Juan Kimani Ichung'wah will be heckled?
I don't think so, Elijah. Character is like pregnancy. With the time, it will reveal itself.
Yes.
By coincidence,
yes.
I don't need to answer a question with a question. Why is it that the National Assembly, members of the National Assembly, members of Kenya Kwanza, have issues with Wamatangi, and not all of them reside in Kiambu or are voters in Kiambu? The National Assembly, some of the members feel he's overstepping his mandates. So in essence, the same overstepping his mandates, he brings it down to Kiambu. He does not know his scope. The scope of the governor, the scope of the member of the National Assembly for Kikuyu. So Kimani Ichung'wah is used to boring his way up to the limits that he does not know where his scope stops. His mandates are within Kikuyu constituency and not Kiambu County and not the Kenya country. He should confine himself to matters being the majority leader of the National Assembly and to Kikuyu. When he goes to Rari, in the past for the last 1 year, there have been a lot of battles between the MCAs and the governor, and it was carried. One MCA, it's a lady called Ruth from a certain Gedega ward, said that the external forces have been portraying themselves so that they can harass and question the issues of governance in Kiambu. At his own backyard, at Digio, the area MCA echoes the same sentiments. Charity begins at home. So if you are fighting your governor, and the persons that you are asking to go and start the war hits back at you and tells you, Pedro, stop. Don't now go and ask us to antagonize the governor. So when the MCA stops their fight with the governor, plan B for Ichung'wah is go and look for the members of, for the area MPs. So whom does he go to? He goes to Kiaba and picks Kawajiko. What Eric is saying, members from Mount Kenya must have a start with the word car. He must be associated with something. He goes to Thika, where the area MP arrests. He says even in public that in 2027, I'm coming for your seat. So his is a losing ground. He's losing his ground. He has left now the MCAs. They've realized who Kimani Ichung'wah is. He's gone to the members of parliament. They were heckled at Rari. He goes to the National Assembly. The fight does not stop there. He abdicates the role of Moses Wetangula, I'm sure. It's only that we are not asking Wetangula the same question. Most people feel that Kimani Ichung'wah is proud, bully, and overstepping in people's toes. And that is now why we find a lot of the caricature that is going around, telling him, Kaidre, can you maintain your scope?
Pretty much.
You are the member of the Kikuyu.
Yes.
I mean, Kikuyu constituency. Deal with matters of Kikuyu constituency. You are the majority leader. Kaidre mobilize and deal with the issues of the National Assembly.
Yes.
But when it comes to the management of any other independent institution, Kaidre do not overstep your boundaries.
Pretty much, Bragalo. You don't know what majority of people are saying, that if you keenly listen as to why they will be unpopular in especially the Kiambu region, is the way they've been vocal about speaking against Uhuru Kenyatta. One, Kimani Ichung'wah has been talk on that, and majority of the chant in that crowd were about Uhuru Kenyatta. And number two, that if indeed any other person is going to be unpopular in that ground, it's going to be Kimani Ichung'wah, because he's the one who's been seen vocal about implementing government agenda. Is that why? Or are you going to support Mungai's assertion that indeed that is a bought crowd?
Kimani Ichung'wah, do you know, I've never seen him on eastern side of Kiambu.
Yes.
I only hear him on the western side of Kiambu. I hear Kimani Ichung'wah was in Limuru, he was in Kikuyu. I've never seen him doing his razzmatazz in Juja. What Kimani Ichung'wah doesn't know is that Governor Matangi will be back.
Yes.
If Governor Matangi is still the way he is, he'll be back. Ichung'wah is fighting Uhuru dynasty. And I will still call it dynasty. People who think otherwise can go hang. Because Uhuru dynasty is there to stay. It will decide 2027. And some of the people who will be swept away are like Ichung'wah.
Yes.
Why am I saying this? Ichung'wah said that he's listening to the ground. Does the ground need housing levy? Maybe not. So the ground will tell him we never needed housing levy by voting him out. And he bulldozes the way my friend has said, which is true. He is the boss of Kiambu, but not the leader. He's the boss. The boss has his way every time. The leader talks to his people.
Yes.
And the performance of this governor at 4%, having paid back levies and things that the county has consumed. Your performance is graded to even what happens to you.
Yes.
This is a governor that started day one. And the first thing I knew, he was going to be the fastest governor to be removed. He has survived the first year. It's even a shocker to me. How would you perform when you have an evil spirit behind you, chasing you all the time? Other than working, you'll be looking behind. So I'm not shocked if Kiambu is underperforming. I'm only shocked why the leaders in Kiambu will always not want Kiambu to prosper. I one day asked, when I was seated here at Lookuptv, that Kiambu leads by removing governors. This is the fourth governor since inception of the constitution. Since the voting, not even inception, the voting in 2013, when we started with the first governor, Kabogo. This is the fourth governor, while Kisumu, this is a which governor? Number 2. Yes. And you look at CI is governor number 2. Look at what CI is doing. It's paying 100%. And who collects more between CI and Kiambu? Kiambu collects more and gets more from Exchequer than CI.
Yes.
Look at what CI is doing. Because CI, however much they have their problems, but nobody is fighting the governor to an extent he is always looking behind him. Look at the counties that have done very well. Look at Mandera, a very quiet place. Do we even talk about it on TV? Look at Muranga. Muranga has governor number 2. Look at what they are doing. So if you beat your governor every day, this is the fourth governor in Kiambu, let's tell ourselves the truth. That governor will not be working. He'll be working looking behind. And someone is already telling the governor, I'm coming for your seat. What will the governor do? Do what you can do, because this seat is actually gone. So if you keep your family in peace, they will progress. But if you keep your family in turmoil, there is no progress. That is nature. So however much we talk here, the back remains that we are causing this in Kiambu. By fighting the governor, we vote the governor, immediately we start fighting. Okay, what did Kabogo do wrong? Nothing. Nothing totally. But now he's out. He can't even redeem himself because the stories that were done about him still haunt him till today. Immediately Kabogo went out, we brought a governor who served barely 2 years. He was out. Then brought another one who served 1.5 years. He's home. Now we have the fourth governor who we are now fighting. We are telling him all manner of things. But let me tell you, the ground is with him. I would request you to watch this. Ichung'wah stands against him. I will vote that governor. If Ichung'wah goes with him, I'll vote that governor. I'd rather have a governor underperforming but sober, who does not abuse people. Trust me, I've never heard Wamatangi use abusive languages. Hata ila wakati alikuwa anapigwa, Wamatangi is very sober. He's never used abusive languages. And I've heard others do. I'm from Kiambu. So now the other thing, bro, and this is to my heart. We have a national conference of illicit brew. Why won't we have a national conference of cattle rustling? Okay? We have another national conference of cattle dying in northern Kenya without buying them when we have hunger. Why is it that anything touches on Mount Kenya become national? Do we have people who drink alcohol in Siaya and die? Do you have people who drink illicit alcohol in Mombasa and die? Why is it that anything that touches Mount Kenya become national?
Yes.
Have they become Kenyan and others are not Kenyans? I may be asking a very bad question. People may say I'm talking badly, but that is true. We have cattle rustling and people dying forever and ever in Baringo and other sides. We've never had a national conference in Mombasa eating and brewing and sleeping in 5-star hotel to discuss the way cattle are being rustled. But right now, because 2-3 have died in Mount Kenya, now we have a national conference for what? For illicit brew. Answer me. Do we need it? We don't. Why? We only need to change our country, make our country stable. Employ young kids, give them jobs. That will trickle down to their parents.
Yes.
And everyone at home. Stabilize the economy, my friend. Let unga go down. What did Kibaki do? Kibaki alienda akafagia mpaka chokora Nairobi wote wakaekwa NYS. Okay? Stabilize the economy and the illicit brew will die a natural death. Then, nationalize Kenyan brews. Changa is not bad. And I would say it on national TV. We only need to give it a legislation and people can brew it well and package it well and call it Changa. Changa is a good name. Changa is an international name. Unaenda kukunywa nini pale, let me give I'm looking for a name, a bar name, I don't want to call a bar. Unaenda kukunywa nini Ragalos. Pale kuna changa ingine ilitoka Kisumu, imepakiwa vizuri na kunyika vizuri. Ugandans saw the problem and they had to pack Waragi. Waragi is theirs. It is in your village. But you go to Uganda, lukunywa Uganda Waragi. But here we are fighting Changa, as if Changa is bad. Can we pack Changa and give it a name? We used to have Kibuku Sake. Ilikuanga ni, mami, it was what? Ilikuwa ile ya uji inaitwa nini? Ilikuwa inaitwa? Sogam. Watu walikuwa na kunywa hiyo ya uji. It was packed nicely. Ungekuta mzee amefungua hivi anakunywa mpaka anashiba. Akienda nyumbani hata kuli analala. One, it has vitamin E. It adds vitamins in your body. It has that yeast, fermented yeast, assists in digestion. Why do you nowadays unaenda kwa supermarket unaambiwa ununue yogurt ambayo inaitwa probiotic? Because we stop drinking our own uji that is fermented. Nowadays you can do probiotic, which is the difference. Then now, why would we do Moratina? Pack Moratina nicely. When I go to marry Eric's sister, they bring a nicely packed Moratina.
Yes.
And we drink.
It was around in Roller Street.
Okay?
Yes.
We do a nicely packed Moratina. Moratina is not bad.
Yes.
Why don't we do Kalogo? When you go to Kambani, they call it Kalogo. What is bad with the Kalogo? It was done by our forefathers. So today it is bad because we are now more learned. What is bad with the Mnazi? Why can't you pack it? So we are going to sit down to discuss these things. Changa. Can't we just do legislation and change the colonial legislation and make it nicely? Of course we'll be beaten. We'll be fought by the international community. The British Kenya breweries. Why do you think bang is banned in Kenya? Is medically wrong to have bang? When you go internationally,
yes,
is it not used as a medical? We have a drug called drocannabinol. I'm forgetting the name. Why can't we do legislation and have it nice? Because now we should have, and this I'm asking, we should have a national conference of cattle rustling.
That's it.
A national conference for fish farming.
That's it.
A national conference for pyrethrum growing. A national conference for sugarcane growing.
That's it.
A national conference for banana plantations. Wacheni jokes bana, kitu kifanyika Ruiru hapa, it becomes national.
That's it. Here's the thing, we only have 2
Ama
minutes.
Eric nimeongea vibaya.
We only have 2
Niko
minutes
sawa?
left. And this is the last division that I wanted us to talk about, and it's just going to come in form of a question now. And it's just 45 seconds as your closing statements on it as we step out. Right now, with the way it is, there is a tiff between Kalonzo Musyoka and Martha Karua as to who is going to take the baton if and when Raila Amolo Odinga exits for the top AU job. Who are your sense on? That's the question.
I love the sense that there would be a tiff between Kalonzo and Martha Karua.
There is no tiff.
Let me tell you for a fact, if I was to place a bet, any time I would place it on Martha. You know why? Because Kalonzo has proved time and again, he is a man with no stand.
This is a sadist.
He is a prevaricator. He is a man who plays the game of ping pong and yo-yo. Any time between Kalonzo and Martha, I would go for Martha, even though I know in the ultimate scheme of things, Martha would not get out of Geshogo, but it is safer to bet on Martha than to bet on Kalonzo.
That's it. Joy, the same question. Who are your sense on? Should it come to that? Because it looks as if Raila is very busy campaigning.
Our house is in order. We are not fighting. Mugai yesterday missed the Sunday service. That is why he's not seeing his brightly. He went to visit Ben Hill, and that's the issue. Our house is intact. We are not fighting. Even when you had Elijah, the 5 figures.
Yes, 15 seconds, Joyce.
Yes. So our house is okay.
That's it.
Whichever the turn of event it will be, whether to my sister Mother or the senior Kenyan Karonso, we are good. And it will be a blessing in disguise, either of the two.
That's it.
Whether Karonso or Mother, we're going to take 2027. Rastre as I part. Allow me to pass a message of condolence to my neighbor, the late John Boro, who passed on. And we, together with the Lookuptv, wish the family Godspeed. Let them mourn in peace. He's from Muguga at Kebu County.
Seconds. You're eating my seconds.
Yes.
Also condolence to Peter Morgan. Some of us will love reggae. So a member of Morgan Heritage family has left the world to go and do reggae with Bob on the other side. So may his soul rest in eternal peace. And yesterday we had a healing crusade. I don't know who was being healed, who was sick. Me, I'm not sick. Who are they praying for? They were praying for themselves.
Ragala, the question was between Kalonzo Musyoka and Martha Karua.
I'll go for Kalonzo.
Does it?
Yes.
They went to pray for AU AUC chair.
I'll go for Kalonzo.
That's it. Pretty much.
So they went to pray for AU.
They went to pray for
I'm
AU.
even shrubbing now play. They went to pray for Raila.
Yes.
Raila was not there.
That's it.
So some of them were asking for husbands. God bless them.
But the husbands are...
But you're single. Why don't you go there?
No, I'm not single. I'm happily married.
Guess what? Take them back to the time that you joined us right here at Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. Somebody said that we are now having rains. Does it? Yeah, me too, but now. Yeah. There also someone said... There also someone said we now have rains because of Benny Hinn. That's it. Sheila, check us out. We're completely...